Welcome to the Manosphere Paradigm, the channel where we learn to level up in health, wealth, relationships, and hobbies. I want you to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, as well as the notification bell so that you can be informed as I drop content on this channel on a weekly basis. So let's get into today's topic. I wanted to talk about what's happening over in Ukraine. Um, as you all know, the Russians has invaded, and there is a lot of destruction. There is people that is being displaced. People are running and fleeing out of the country, and obviously it is dire and it is very sad to see. But there's some things that stood out that I could pick up from looking at it from a RP lens and looking through just what's happening when it comes to things that relate to men. One of the things was the fact that the the Ukrainian men have been banned from leaving the country and urged to join the army as Russian troops advance on Kiev. I've learned how to say the name correct because we all said Kiev, but it's Kiev. So, you know, if you look at this article, it says the Ukrainian men aged 18 to 60 have been banned from leaving the country and urged to join the army as Russian forces reportedly breached the capital of Kiev. You know, when it comes to us as men having to lay our lives on the line, it's expected and we are it's required of us to do so. And I don't believe we as men in general have an issue with doing it because we've been doing it for centuries. And when it comes to going into battle and going in there as being a patriot and wanting to make sure that your kids that's back home or your family that's back home that they are safe and you are fighting for their life and their livelihood and the basically fighting for their rights. Now, whether you're on the Ukrainian side, whether you're on the Russian side, there's a whole lot of complicated things that goes into this whole that has transpired and has culminated into this invasion of Russia into Ukraine. Um, it depends on what what you think about it, but there's a lot of things, and I'll probably do a video on that and go into more detail explaining that history as to what has fueled this type of conflict at this moment. But when it comes to this topic of us as men being basically banned, the men from Ukrainian men is banned from leaving. Now there might be some men that wants to leave, that's their prerogative, but the government is saying no. 18 to 60, you are staying in this country and you're going to fight. I'm hearing of Ukrainian men that is coming in from other countries that is flying back to and trying to get back into the country to fight for their country. That's commendable, it's honorable. And obviously there is some females that is in the Ukrainian armed forces that's fighting as well. But you didn't hear a lot of this womanist movements making a big noise when this announcement was made by Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, to say that men are being banned to leave the country. You didn't hear them scream to say, you know what, get onto the news outlets and say, you know what, it's unfair. We want to fight for our country and we want to also put our lives on the line. You didn't hear that. And one of the reasons why I do bring that up is obviously not to minimize their effort. There is women that's part of the battle that's fighting, and I commend them as well. But when you look at the makeup of the Ukrainian armed forces, it says that if you check on Wikipedia, in Ukraine, also in let me just go back. There we go. It talks about women on active duty make almost 15.6% of the armed forces of Ukraine, of those, and 7% of those are officers. This number is close to NATO armed statistics. Then it goes into a whole long spiel about Norway and NATO and United Kingdom and the numbers being similar. But one of the things that stood out for me was, and the female general appointed was in October 2018. One of the interesting things as well is that also in 2018, Ukraine adopted a law that gives military women equal rights with men. Interesting. You know, um, if you know about the Ukrainian president, the prior president or the former president Poroshenko, as well, he was a he was an interesting character when it comes to the things that he got up to and the type of crimes that he committed. And he's obviously his alliance when it comes to Russia. But if you go through this article, it talks about Poroshenko has signed a law introducing amendments to certain laws of Ukraine on ensuring equal rights and opportunities of women and men during military service in the armed forces of Ukraine. The law provides equal opportunities for persons of both sexes when concluding a contract for military service and determines that women can enter into a contract for military service before they reach the age limit for military service. Another thing further down, he says the implement come on the implementation of the law will help increase the level of legal protection for women soldiers and increase the number of women in the military, in particular in senior military positions. You know, it's interesting for me when it comes to talking about equality. It's always about getting women into senior roles, getting into them into the power roles. Now, I mean, if you're talking about equality, then you want them to be equally represented in the mundane tasks, soldiers, frontline soldiers, the ones that putting their life on the line, the same way as men. They're asking for equality, right? So when you go further down, the law, it mentions here that the law establishes the principle that women do military service on an equal footing with men, including equal access to the post and military ranks and equal responsibilities in the performance of military duties. Okay, so it is saying that it is established the principle that women do military service on an equal footing. Now, I mean, if you go back to what this law that or this where this announcement was made, where only men has been banned to leave the country. But like I said, I don't hear the womanist movement standing up and saying this is unfair, we will stay and we will also fight. Why can the men also only stay and fight? We also want to fight. And again, I will say I commend the woman that is currently within their forces fighting. But if you look at, let me go to this one, women in Ukraine's military and opportunity for change. It mentions here that the principle was established that the fact that the law establishes the principle that women do military service on an equal footing. So let's explore that. In this article, it mentions it's gone up to now in 2018, the number of women in armed forces of Ukraine had reached up to 55,000, which is at least 3 times more than it was in the beginning of the war in 2014. One of the things that stood out for me again, when they say the principle or the law that was introduced in 2018 was perceived that women are operating on an equal footing when it comes to men. But if I look over here, it says as a result, women could be legally employed in the military but not in combat roles. That doesn't sound like an equal footing to me. So what I wanted to show you was, as a result, women could be legally employed in the military but not in the combat role. That's not on an equal footing the way they stated earlier, or the law that they introduced was stated on. But let's go further. It also says here that in 2018, the number of women in the armed forces of Ukraine, though not necessarily on the front line, had reached up to 55,000 according to official statistics. So the law basically stated that it establishes the principle that women do military service on an equal footing. Now, I don't know if it doesn't make sense to you, let me know in the comments what you think. But if the law is stating that women are doing military service on an equal footing, then I believe the equal footing would be the same. They are pushing for the same type of equality when it comes to women being on the front line, taking the hits and taking those bullets. They're interested in making sure that they are showing that they can obviously withstand battle, and they want to enjoy all these benefits that's part of the military. But again, like I say, they are not fighting or wanting to make a big war about this rule that Zelensky has put in place because it doesn't benefit them. And it's always been that they go for the rules that benefit them when it comes to the high positions. And I'm not going to take anything away from the woman that is in the battle, that is fighting. But I just wanted to highlight these inconsistencies because at the end of the day, you know, it's always demanded that men needs to be the one that is protecting the provider, and when it comes to military, the ones that's putting on their lives on the line for the betterment of their country. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it's something that's expected of us, and men has always been doing this. When it comes to the women's movements, and when it comes to the things that they fight for, and always, obviously, when there is no battles that's being fought currently, like it's currently now, then they are all vocal. They're in there wanting all equal rights, but it's not equal rights. It is the high positions because no one's fighting for those frontline positions, as we can see. So it's not that I'm saying, you know what, and just wanting to basically rant and basically go on at the fact that look, the men is dying for the country and what the woman is doing. Like I said, I'm commending those women that is in the battle, that's currently fighting, that's laying their lives on the line as well. It is not the majority. As I mentioned, it was close to about 10% now, and obviously 90% of the armed forces in Ukraine are men. Um, I'm just saying, and the reason for this video for me was just to highlight those inconsistencies, but at the same time, wanting to just bring us back to, in the old wars, there was the men that was doing their part. They were always the young men going off to war and fighting and dying for their country. And the women stayed behind looking after the children, because if they didn't do that, who's going to be the ones to do that, to stay behind, look after the next generation so that the country can obviously go on in future. So all of us play a part. All of us have a role and something that we bring to the table. And when it comes to the womanist movement type of battles that they want to fight and certain things they want to highlight so that they can get the things that they only want, it's never for the betterment of the country as a whole. It's only focused on women. It's only focused on their needs. It's not focused on what the country needs as a whole, how men plays into it, how women plays into it, and how together they're going to make the country better. It's only on the benefits that women can get, not looking at the country as a whole. And that is my issue, because when it comes to times like these, when it comes to war, and at least fortunately in South Africa, I haven't gone through something like that, and it's obviously, I can imagine just how nerve-wracking it is, not knowing if any bomb is gonna land on your roof, or you need to move where you are now, and you need to leave the town, the city, the country even, because the fighting is too intense. It's something that's unfortunate, and it's not something that I wish on anyone. But like I said, at the end of the day, we all play our role, and I wanted to just highlight the fact that men again are the ones that is still required to come in and save the day, because that is what we do. That is what we do as men, and that's what we'll continue to do in future, in whatever battles that come in World War III, whatever it is. We constantly be going to be the one that's fighting for our families, fighting for our country, fighting for our women, fighting for the children. They are only, at least we are always going to be the ones that's required that job. That is a burden of performance we have on as men in general, and it is what it is. But I just wanted to highlight again this inconsistency where, no one is screaming for the woman to be the ones that's going there. I'm not saying the woman needs to be there and fighting the battle and having 50-50, because you know what? You need the woman to obviously play their role, look after the children, and then also to, support the men in the fighting, in doing things for them, making sure there's meals, and working through the conflict, as nerve-wracking as it is, to make sure that the men are at their best to be able to do the battles and fight the battle that they need to. So I hope you enjoyed that one. I hope you enjoyed this video. I just wanted to make sure that I add my comment to this, what's happening currently in Ukraine, and basically drawing this comparison and seeing the inconsistencies when it comes to womanism, and how things, it's been very quiet when it comes to them not saying anything when it comes to the times when you need to get in there, get into the battle and fight with the men. But no, this time around, obviously, it's okay for the men to lay down their lives, and down the road, they want to be the ones that's benefiting and reaping the rewards. As men, we need to realize that is unfortunately the way we are as men expendable, and is always expected to just go in and do our best and to suck it up. Um, and what I wanted to also end this off this video is to say that we as men need to understand our power. We need to understand when times go as calm again, when things goes back to normal, that we don't fold for the pressure that comes from these movements that's only wanting to make sure that what they want is being looked after, and the things that they are selfishly just wanting to achieve and reap and benefits and resources they want to extract based on the pressure and the screaming that they are doing for how things are unfair for them. It's always based on their selfish ambition and not for the greater good. In a time of war, it's all about the greater good and coming together as a country. Um, so, it is what it is. But I hope you enjoy that video. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.